As video games become more cinematic, it's only fair then to compare them with movies. The closest comparison to the Avengers game would probably be the Avengers movie. A stretch, I know. Get it? A stretch? Because the main character is it.
I do. I understood that reference.
This game has to compete with the movie's composition, direction, plot, experience, score, performances, and overall cultural impact. The Avengers movie was, at the time, the most ambitious and sprawling crossover movie event ever. The result of 4 years and 5 films, all leading up to an epic team-up event of the summer. And it worked. Avengers made $1.5 billion and set the MCU on the path to blockbuster domination. This game has to compete with that. It may not be fair, but it's true. For the majority of people, most of these characters are known only from these movies. Look up a picture of Tony Stark and you know what you find?
A picture of me?
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Thor, Captain America. Again, it's not a preference, it's a default. I know the comics have been around for 80 years, but in just 10 years, the MCU has become the most successful film franchise ever. These characters, for many people, are film characters, not comic book ones, and certainly not video game ones. This is just one of the massive hurdles the Avengers game must clear, and they don't quite make it. I mean, one of the reasons I think there was such backlash against the character models when they were first revealed was not because they didn't look good, but because they looked too much like off-brand MCU actors.
What a pity. You idiots! These are not them! You've captured their stunt doubles!
The saving grace here is Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel. Not only is it wonderful to see a female person of color as a main character in a AAA video game, but also because she's new to the modern whirlwind of superhero pop culture. For many, this is the first time they will have ever heard or seen her, and she is the heart of this game. At least for a while. Pretty soon, the interesting story of reassembling the Avengers gets pretty boring and monotonous. Not to mention the story itself is told between the combat sections. Dated, boring, bland combat sections. Essentially, the MO of this game is, go here, kill 75 robots, and then we'll tell you why. The main offloading of exposition is given on board the Chimera, the Avengers' refurbished helicarrier base. At first, the Chimera is a wonder. You'll find yourself wandering into other Avengers' rooms and awing out the window. But like much of this game, it gets old too fast. The ship is too big, and having vendors and objectives spread around it can be frustrating. It just becomes annoying to have to walk across it.
Ship is too big. If I walk, the movie will be over.
Sir.
Yes. Oh! Never have that damn thing down in front of me. How do I know you're not making faces at me under that thing?
Hey, that's my second Spaceballs reference. An open world could have solved this a little. The most fun in Spider-Man is swinging around New York. Imagine flying around the city as Iron Man or Thor. I guess that doesn't necessarily jive with the Avengers being in hiding and all, but still, it would have been fun. Anyway, like I said, so much of the game leaves you feeling this way. It's cool, fun, and exciting at first, but very quickly it feels samey, tedious, and thin.
Sort of stretched like butter scraped over too much bread.
It doesn't help that there are bugs and some glitches. Some are minor, and some happen during the final mission, so I had to restart the game. But don't worry, it happened to me twice. Okay, yes, some games have bugs and crashes. It happens. They're only human. Or more like, inhuman. Huh? Also, maybe I'm spoiled by games like The Last of Us, but why don't their faces match what they're saying?
You have done well, loyal one.
That's my voice.
Gather the Woken, and we will begin.
What trickery is this?
Whoa. That person has really gotten him or herself into quite a predicament.
But a lot of the problems here are just with the game design. With these big open areas, it can be really hard to instinctively know where to go, and the objectives aren't always clear. I've had to stop and look up what I was supposed to be doing a few times, so that's not great. And I suppose we're intended to fight enemies along the way to the building or base or whatever at the other end of the map. But as someone like Iron Man, it's all too easy to just fly there. But once we get there, all those enemies followed you. So you end up fighting an insane number of robots, which gets so chaotic the frame rate dips lower than insert joke here, and then you don't know what's going on, and then you're dead. Oh yeah, don't die or fall or otherwise need to restart, because then you'll be waiting a minute. Now, I don't want it to sound like I don't like this game.
We don't, but I didn't mean to make it sound like that.
It can be fun for short bursts, and it seems like the developers kinda knew that, and that's why the war zones in multiplayer are designed the way it is. But if they wanted to make a multiplayer game, why not just make a multiplayer game? The way the game is structured, you being able to essentially choose your adventure path, can make the story feel disjointed, like one mission doesn't really follow the next. I kind of feel this way with a lot of open world games, where there's some existential threat of impending doom, but you go get ice cream or something. There's no through line for the story. An easy fix would have been to make the main storyline the only thing you're able to play until it's completed. Then be the Avengers and go around the world and doing all kinds of superhero things. Speaking of superhero things, why can't we be a big old team? I mean, seriously, why can I only choose 2 or 3 companions for a mission? Doesn't that hurt the game's logic a little? Why wouldn't Thor be there? Why wasn't Black Widow invited? Sometimes a character you didn't choose will still talk to you during a mission. I don't know, looking out the window, I guess.
Wave to him.
And if the answer is something like, well, sometimes missions don't require the whole team, then why is it in the game? Either make up a story-driven reason not everyone is there, or just invite all of our friends. Oh, and while we're at it, let me switch between them during a mission. It reminds me of the DC movie franchise, the DCEU. After the success of the Avengers movie, DC said, hey, they're taking all of our superhero money. So they intended to follow suit. They released Man of Steel in 2013, which was a good start. Like Iron Man, Superman was going to be an anchoring presence moving forward. Now, unlike the MCU, where they continued individual origin stories eventually leading up to the climactic team-up movie, the DCEU had a mini launch of the Justice League, a new villain team, then, hey, the good one. And then, yeah. They went a little too fast, too far, too soon. And that's how I feel about this Avengers game. Spider-Man was a good start at creating a Marvel gaming universe, but instead of smaller individual Avenger games, we get this. We never really get to know these Avengers because the developers, I guess, kind of already assume you do. But they're also their own individual characters. Imagine if we instead got a few developers to coordinate an MGU, releasing games that all build on one another. There could be a super spy stealth game with Black Widow and Hawkeye, a coming-of-age and acceptance story with Hulk and Kamala, and then of course an Iron Man or Captain America game. And then we all come together as the Avengers, a team players have been assembling for years over several different games. It would be a massive undertaking, but the result would have been incredible. But here we're just left hoping for something like that to ever happen.
Well, what are you waiting for?
I don't know, something amazing, I guess.
Me too, kid.
Like its MCU counterpart, the Avengers could have been the biggest crossover event in all of gaming. But instead, we got this. It can be fun, and I'm sure it'll have a long life and make lots of money. But like its DCEU brethren, don't be surprised if in a few years its big plans are forgotten, or another Avengers game crops up with new characters, or one that focuses on just one Avenger. Maybe updates and constant attention will build this game up to what it has the potential to be. Maybe it'll be remembered as the game that started it all, whatever it all turns out to be. Or maybe it'll just be what it is, a fun yet thin experience plagued with tedium and monotony. Time will tell. Maybe as we become further removed from the Infinity Saga of the MCU, this game will get new eyes, and will be less pressured by impossible expectations set by its cinematic cousin. Either way, I'm still pretty pissed that my game crashed.
What the hell?